So I thought, just so everybody's clear, I thought this was an interview, and it's not. I'm supposed to be giving a presentation, which is fine, not completely prepared for, but I am a school teacher, so I talk in front of people all the time, and I am happy to talk about the book. Now, here's the thing, there are just two people, Arlene and Trisha, and Trisha knows the book very well. And I'd like, as long as she's here, she can participate. Trisha read a lot of the earlier versions of the book. And one thing that's great about Trisha is she's one of those friends that everybody needs, right? Desperately needs, because she will tell you the truth. And when you're a writer, you cannot do it if you don't have people to give you really honest critical feedback. And it sounds simple, but a lot of some people will read some of my things, and it's not that they'll lie, but they're not comfortable. It's a very hard thing to ask of a friend, to say, listen, I want you to be really blunt. And I don't think people realize how tough it is, but Trisha steps it up and is absolutely amazing, because I can trust that she will give me the truth. And she's very, very smart. She's a great reader. So her feedback has been invaluable in this process. And I'm throwing all that out there because, it's Trisha and Arlene. And like I said, Trisha knows everything. So this might be a little bit redundant for you, Trisha. And
No.
so, what? But I think it's a great place to start on the benefit of sort of open and honest conversation and open and honest communication, since that's a huge thread in the book, which I will definitely get to. But it's through that kind of conversation that you can begin to have empathy for the other and really understand the person, and then move to a place of love and out of a place of fear. And I guess if I would say is the one theme of the book, that would be it. What does this book really teach people, or what do I hope it teaches people? That the two main characters in the book, which one is based on me and the other is based on my grandmother, come together at a certain point in the book, and the grandmother has had a very traumatic, difficult past, and she has to slowly reveal this past. And she has certain ideas about her granddaughter, and her granddaughter has certain ideas about her. And they're both somewhat judgmental. And I think through their conversation, and through the grandmother finally being able to open up and address some of the things that she was so terrified of for her life, which is understandable considering what she went through, the two characters really begin to understand each other, and through that empathy, they can actually love each other in a way they could never before. Anyway, I don't know. It's all based on my friendship with Trisha. Just so that's part of it.
I would just like to add that it was a real learning process for me to be absolutely frank with Sylvia, and even though I knew that she would be wonderful with whatever I had to say, she far surpassed that, and let me say, and welcomed everything I said that was, not, it never was that I didn't like anything. It was just that I thought maybe there were some places where it could be done a little bit differently. So anyway, Sylvia is the perfect person to receive that kind of feedback.
Well, thank you. It is feedback, you can't write without, I don't think, I can't, I should say I can't write without feedback. And like I said, it's difficult to find people who feel comfortable being that honest. Anyway, I'll just give a little bit of background about myself and the book, and then I have some great pictures to share. I can read a short excerpt. But anyway, the book is based on my family story. It's fictionalized for a couple different reasons. Some of the historical parts I wasn't completely told, and I don't know, some of those details for sure. So, you can't write a true account unless you have the actual truth. That's one reason. And the other reason is it's the point of view of the main character is from my grandmother and not my point of view, although I'm definitely in there. And so if it was going to be something like a memoir, it would have to be from my point of view. And I really wanted it to be from my grandmother's point of view for a number of different reasons because of the historical aspect. And I think her story and the family story is a really interesting one. And this book is also about family secrets and families keeping secrets. This secret happens to be a particularly tragic one that happened in Germany during, the Nazi regime. But I think many families have secrets, and I think those secrets can do a lot of damage. And so that's another theme and thread in the book. Anyway, so I'll do a little bit of myself. So I am now 62. I'm a grandmother to amazing grandchildren, and I have two wonderful daughters. And in my 20s, I was really struggling with depression. Now, I can say pretty comfortably that I was struggling with depression for my whole life, but I did not know that in my 20s. All I knew in my 20s was that I could barely hold on. I felt like I was on a tightrope. All was ready to fall off. I was anxious. I couldn't drive anymore. I couldn't even go to the grocery store. Everything was overwhelming, and I had no idea what to do. It would seem simple. Well, go seek help, go to a psychiatrist. But when I was in college, I majored in chemistry, and I'm a chemistry teacher, by the way. When I was in college, I had a chemistry professor who was the head of the chemistry department, and he was a wonderful man. And I did very well on my tests in college. And he would always ask me after I handed one in, how did you do? And I would say, oh, I probably failed. And he was a little concerned about me. And he thought, I think you should seek counseling because you don't, you have no idea what you're capable of. And I thought, okay, I'll do that. But I went home and I told my mother this story. And my mother, who was a warm and generous person, like just had this look of terror on her face and literally slammed the door on me and said, no child of mine shall ever see one of those people. So it was very clear from that point, but also from much earlier. I mean, children know and feel what's going on in the home. And I mean, there was an aura of secrecy and fear around a lot of my childhood. So anyway, back in my 20s, after I'd finished college, finished with chemistry for the time being, I had no idea how to survive. And I thought, well, I have a great idea. I'll just have a baby. That will fix me. And so I was 25, and having a baby was an amazing, wonderful thing, but it was not a fix for depression. So I got a terrible postpartum depression that was on top of a lot of the depression I'd had for so long. And I ended up in McLean Hospital here in Belmont, which was weirdly the best and not the best like experience, but the most educational. That's the word I'm looking for. It was the most educational experience of my life. And it was a gift. It was a huge gift. And from that, I was able to get better. And one of the things, when I first went into McLean, the doctors, they asked pretty much standard questions. Is there any mental illness in your family? And I was like, no. I mean, except for me, the black sheep. No, everybody is perfect. And that's what I actually really believed. Everybody's fine. Everybody's perfect except for me. I'm the weak link. I know it sounds a little whiny, but that's that's what it felt like. That's what it was. So my grandmother actually came, and it was a really difficult thing to have her around. She was very critical of me when I was growing up. And what happened in the hospital was that she slowly revealed her past and this huge secret that had been kept. And as it turns out, her sister, whose name was Rigmore, was mentally ill and didn't make it out of Germany, which is a huge part of the story in the book. And that fear ran very deep on my mother's side of the family. The fear of not being perfect, the fear of mental illness will get you killed, because that's what happened in Nazi Germany. So, I mean, a couple things happened to me. I mean, I got better, partly because of therapy, partly because of medication, and partly because my family was willing to reveal these this secret past. And it did bring the family much closer together. I mean, once those secrets are revealed and people are building a new foundation of honesty, it really, it brings the family into the light. So that was sort of my piece of the story. And I think this part isn't in the book, but after I got out of McLean, I was able to raise my daughters without the fear and shame and secrecy that I was raised in. And I think that was a gift for me to be able to do that, but I was able to do that because of McLean and because my mother and grandmother were willing to share. And my eldest daughter, when she was around 14 or 15, she started showing signs of depression. My younger daughter has some depression as well, although hers is more around anxiety. So I got both the anxiety and the depression. Lucky me. Anyway, so when my eldest daughter was starting to show signs, I mean, I took her to a therapist and a psychiatrist and a psychic, just covering all the bases. And there was no shame in it for her, and she's a very productive, entertaining, brilliant young woman. Both of them are. But I think that for me, if I look at my life and I say, what have I done well? I have been a good teacher, I know that, but what I really did was I lived an open and honest life with my children and made sure that they didn't grow up in a home where there were secrets, where there was fear, where there was shame. And that to me was, I think, the most important thing I did. Anyway, and that again is why I wrote this book, really, because it's all about being open about mental illness, about fear, about shame, and about secrets. So a little bit about the background of the story of one of the major stories in the book is about this woman named Rigmore. So she was my grandmother's sister, and she was a beautiful, talented young woman. She was a painter, she was a pianist, she spoke a number of different languages. And, in her late teens, she started showing signs of what they called hysteria. Um, Later was called, melancholy. Um, and my grandmother researched and adored her sister, loved her sister. It was her younger sister. Did a ton of research, found the best doctors. Nothing really was working. And they tried an institution called Sonnenstein, and my great aunt was taken there. And around that time, in 1933, the Germans enacted their sterilization law. And actually, between 1934 and 1939, 400,000 people were sterilized. So, sterilizations, by the way, were going on in other parts of the world as well. Eugenics had was a pretty big movement, and it wasn't just the Germans, but the Nazis took it to an obscene end. Anyway, so people were sterilized for mental illnesses, for congenital deafness and blindness. They were sterilized for alcoholism, for idleness, for feeble-mindedness. So this was supposedly a way of cleaning out the race or whatever. So you stop the propagation of those diseases. And so my great aunt was she sort of was ill at the time when eugenics was becoming huge in Germany. And the sterilization laws led to euthanasia laws. And really, if you think about it, the Nazis' opening act was what they did to the mentally ill in the institutions. There were 6 institutions, larger institutions in Germany. One of them was Sonnenstein. And they built gas chambers there. The doctors designed them. They built the gas chambers. They had crematoriums. They pillaged the bodies. So everything that was later done in the concentration camps was first done in the mental hospitals. And the doctors from the mental hospitals were the same doctors they brought to the concentration camps to build the gas chambers there. So I don't think I think it's a known piece of history, but it's not as well known as certainly, the other parts of the Holocaust. So my grandmother and her sister were really caught up in this whole movement. Then my grandmother and my mother, they ended up fleeing to Switzerland. And I think what happened to my grandmother was she compartmentalized. She took everything from that past in Germany. She lost everything. They were a very wealthy family. They lost all their money. She lost her sister. She left her husband there. Her husband was the one person in my family who wasn't Jewish, and he was a chemistry professor of all things. And he couldn't continue to be a professor if he stayed married to a Jewish woman. So my grandmother ended up in Switzerland, and with basically nothing, or nothing compared to what she had had. And, she pushed it all away. She put it in a box, put it away. And she became I would say, a very controlling woman. And I think it makes total sense. There was so much she couldn't control that she ended up controlling the little things in her life. For example, all the clocks in her house had to go off at exactly the same second every day. She was fastidious about things like that. She was quite rigid too. She was rigid and critical of us. We had to have, we were marked at the table every time we ate dinner. We were given marks for our table manners. And I think in her way, she was controlling what she could control and pushing aside what had happened. So, I didn't know of this sort of sister or of this traumatic past. Many people who fled from Germany at that time, my father's family included, they didn't talk about it. That wasn't something to be talked about. It was something to be forgotten. So, when history was slowly repeating itself with me becoming mentally ill, they were able to talk about it. And, we were able to sort of let go of what they considered a shameful past. So that's basically the whole story of the book. Trisha, did I get that?
Oh, you did a great job. It was wonderful listening to you recap everything that happened.
Anyway, so yeah, it's very personal. But like I said, it had to be fictionalized. I know how, I don't know how dangerous secrets can be at times. Not always, I guess sometimes there are times maybe secrets should be kept, but I think certainly in my case, the revealing of the secret, it made me feel not alone. Like I wasn't the only person in the family who was mentally ill. And in fact, depression runs very strongly in my family. And I think it's a huge part is genetic. So, it's really helpful to know that and to be able to raise my daughters without them feeling, like there's something wrong with them or they're weak. They're not at all.
I'm sure I will enjoy reading your book.
Well, Arlene, because you're the only one here, I would love to send you a copy. Am I allowed to do that?
I think you are.
Okay.
A signed, but it has to be a signed copy.
Oh,
And
Arlene, it will be signed for sure.
and not only that, in addition to, the secret I uncovered, which is very slowly now, and it's picking up speed, not becoming a secret anymore. I am now
Right.
talking to family. I'm talking to family members about it. And of course, during COVID, it's been a little bit more difficult because it's the kind of story that I'd really rather tell people in person than to, and we're not
Right.
seeing anybody in person. But we also have depression and suicide in my family. So yeah, and years ago, no one talked about that. No
Right.
one said that,
Right.
So, and on 2 generations, not just in 1 generation.
For
Where
sure.
is your book sold? Like on Amazon or
Everywhere.
everywhere? Okay. Because
So
I have
like,
a
yeah,
cousin. I have a cousin who I think will want it. She got into genealogy, and it's now not just a hobby. It's like all she does, and she has built out her family tree. She's up to, like, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. She once put it on the wall. She wrapped it around the whole house for us
wow.
all to come to see. And and also a lot of stories that emanate from the era that you're talking
Right.
about. You said you're 62. She's 61. I'm 68. So yeah, our families are from that time.
Right. Right.
And I'm a retired audiologist, and to think that they treated deafness that way. Oh my God.
I know.
That I didn't even know.
Yeah.
So yeah. So thank you. And don't worry about the slides. Are there pictures in your book of any of these
There are
people?
pictures. There are the pictures that are on the slides are on the last page of the book.
Okay.
I put them there so that people could see what the characters actually look like. I mean, hopefully my writing is descriptive enough that you can kind of see it. Hi, Trisha.
I just figured out how to get on here.
Trisha, we
Have
see
you
your hand.
What?
written other books?
Yes. So I wrote another book about 5 years ago. It's called The Wednesday Group. It's completely different than this book. It is fiction, but interestingly enough, I think some of the themes are very similar. It's also about secret keeping.
Secrets.
Yeah. Now in this book, there are 5 women who join a therapy group, and all the women are married to sex addicts, and some of them want to stay with their husbands, some of them don't, but none of them want to talk about it with anybody. So through talking about it in this group, they obviously bond to the other women, and then open up, and then can make better decisions for their life. So yeah, I didn't, and it has a lot of shame in it too, like the
I'm
people.
sure. Yeah.
So it's the same. It's funny because somebody had asked me about that the other day, and I didn't realize sort of how similar. I guess I'm on this crusade to like get rid of shame and fear and whatever, and I've come pretty far with that. So it's interesting when I look at my work and what I've done, and I see those patterns and those similarities, and I think, oh. So my next book, not that you've asked about it, but it's again, it's less about secrets, but it's about my journey with the paranormal, basically. And I know I'm a chemistry teacher, and I come from a huge line of scientists, but I've also had these sort of incredible experiences. And in a way, I want to break through that barrier too, because there are a lot of, I don't think there's shame in it, but a lot of people poo poo it and are like, yeah, that's for like weak or not, or people who don't know anything about science. And that's just not true at all. There's a ton of good research out there. And, I've even done a couple sting operations myself. So it's been a huge interest of mine. And I think I pushed so hard to learn about this also because it was something that really wasn't allowed in my family. My family, my father, everybody's a doctor and a scientist and God knows what, right? And so this was like nobody goes to a psychic or a medium. I mean, that's just unheard of. That's not for people like us. Well, it is for people like us. And so that's, anyway,
Mhm.
I have a long
It's
way to
in-
go on that.
It's interesting that you've hit on a couple of things. Like in my family, also, everyone is a doctor, a teacher, a rabbi, a pharmacist, a nurse. I mean, a social worker. That type of thing. And how can it happen? Of course, it can happen. I mean, the one of the people who committed suicide was a nurse. So of course, she knew how to do it too, and do a good job, and be successful. But the other thing that is really unusual, your talk being scheduled for today, and I'm sure it was scheduled for today, a week or two ago, not yesterday,
Right.
coming right after Oprah's big interview, and that blaring all over the news for the last 2 days about shame and secrets and families. It's kind of, and then when you say, science versus not science. So all we've been hearing about the last year is science versus not science.
Right.
So it's very timely, but
No, absolutely true.
but then again, it's timely because we're here. But if you really think about it, I think it would have been timely at any time, because I think the secrets and the guilt and the shame would have always been timely, except that no one would talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and the other piece is obviously the mental illness piece. And, I work with high school students, and I think there's a lot less stigma around mental illness, but it's something I think we still have to work on. So, we have a lot of kids struggling right now with emotional issues because of the pandemic and home
Mhm.
situations, and it's interesting. We have great school counselors, but when they still approach us with, a problem with a child that might be, emotional, there's still some hushing around it, like a little bit of shame. And when I talk about, to my students in my class, I'll talk about depression, I'll tell them about myself, because I want them to know that there's so much help out there, and that you don't have to be ashamed of it, and that if the first person or the first therapist doesn't work, there are a lot more. And so yeah, I guess I'm on a crusade of openness.
I
It's a
think
good
it's
time for it.
absolutely wonderful, because I think that that's exactly what those kids need to hear
Right.
from a teacher that they care a lot about and respect, and yeah, take it out of the shadows.
Right, exactly. Oh, very
Yeah,
well put. Take it out in
yeah,
the shadows.
yeah.
Treat it like we treat diabetes,
Oh, of course, it should be. And I
Right.
am liking what I'm seeing on TV sometimes about, they will do a promo, for mental problems among the young, which is great.
Right,
So,
right. And I mean, we've come like so I've been teaching for a while, obviously. And I remember, when I first started teaching, I mean, one of the big issues or secrecies was, about being gay. And it was very like hush hush, and nobody could talk about it. And if they did
yeah,
talk about it, I mean, kids were bullied if they were gay. I remember the first gay couple who came to the prom, and it was like such a huge deal. And now, and I know there are kids who still struggle, don't get me wrong, but the acceptance, at least, in our community and in the Halston community, is tremendous. And it's great to see that change. It's great to have lived through and really see, that the students are completely accepting of, you know, different gender issues now. Issues, that's probably the wrong word, but there's been a huge change. So,
right.
and I do think mental illness, people are more open, but there's still a ways to go.
Well, I think, and I think bringing out the truth of how things happened during the Holocaust and where the gas chambers were designed, that was just stunning to me. And
Right.
I think the scenes in the mental hospital with the children, oh my God, they were just so well written and so, I mean, you could image yourself there. I mean, you did such a wonderful job with that, Sylvia. And I think that is, I think I'm relatively well read, and I certainly did not know anything about that. I mean, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to know the truth of what happened.